You're 30 years old, and everyone keeps telling you that now is the time to save. Build your emergency fund. Invest for retirement. Put away money for a down payment on a house. Get serious about your financial future. They make it sound so simple, so achievable, like it's just a matter of discipline and determination. But here's what nobody is telling you. The system is actively working against you, but with the precision of an institution that has spent decades perfecting the art of keeping ordinary people broke. My name is Lenny, and today we're going to talk about something that the financial industry desperately doesn't want you to understand. We're going to explain why. If you're 30 years old and you try to save $20,000, the entire system conspires to make sure you never actually get there. The banks, the credit card companies, the subscription services, and the consumer economy have built an invisible machine designed to extract every dollar from your pocket before it can sit safely in a savings account. Let's start with the uncomfortable reality about being 30 in 2026. You're at a crossroads that previous generations never experienced. You're old enough that society expects you to have your life figured out, but you're young enough that the economy has absolutely destroyed the pathway they used. Your parents could save money, they could cut back on a few things, tighten their belt, and actually accumulate wealth by the time they were 30. You're doing exactly the same things they did, following the same advice, making similar sacrifices, and somehow ending up with less. The median 30-year-old in America is carrying some form of debt. Student loans, car payments, credit card balances, medical debt. It's not even a question anymore. It's assumed. It's normalized. It's just what you do now. You graduate college, you're immediately $60,000 in the hole. You need a car to get to work, so you finance that. You have an unexpected medical emergency, so that goes on a credit card. And before you've even had your first real chance to breathe as an independent adult, you're already trapped in a cycle that makes saving $20,000 feel like climbing Mount Everest in flip-flops. Here's what the banks don't want you to realize. They don't actually want you to save money. That sounds insane, right? Banks are supposed to want your money. They're supposed to encourage saving. But the truth is far more complicated and far more sinister than that. When you save money in a traditional savings account, the bank pays you almost nothing. The interest rates on savings accounts right now are laughable. You might get 1% annually if you're lucky. On $20,000, that's $200 per year. Meanwhile, the bank takes your money, lends it out at 5, 6, sometimes 7% to other people, and pockets the difference. They're profiting from your money while paying you basically nothing. But that's not the real game. The real game is making sure you never actually save that money in the first place. Because if you save $20,000, you become dangerous to the system. You become someone who can handle an emergency without going into debt. You become someone who has options. You might decide to quit a job you hate because you have a safety net. You might take a lower paying position that's actually fulfilling. You might negotiate better for yourself because you know you can survive 3 months without income. And that terrifies every institution that profits from your desperation. Think about how many financial traps are specifically designed to drain the savings of 30-year-olds. Let's start with the obvious one, credit cards. The average American has something like 4 credit cards. Most 30-year-olds are carrying balances on at least 1 or 2 of them. The interest rates on credit cards are astronomical. We're talking 18, 21, sometimes 24% annual rates. If you have a $10,000 balance on a credit card at 20% interest, you're paying $2,000 a year just in interest. That's $400 monthly. That's literally burning in the fireplace. Here's the insidious part. Credit cards are designed to be just barely manageable. The minimum payment is calculated to keep you paying interest for years. If you have a $5,000 credit card balance and you only make the minimum payment, it will take you approximately 10 years to pay it off, and you'll pay an additional $4,000 in interest. That's almost doubling the original debt. But the minimum payment feels affordable. You can make it every month, so you convince yourself that you're handling it. Meanwhile, you'll never save $20,000 because every extra dollar you make goes to that credit card payment. The credit card companies know exactly what they're doing. They're not trying to destroy you overnight. They're playing the long game. They want you to make the minimum payment, stay in debt, and never quite get ahead. Because the moment you get ahead, The moment you have savings, you might pay off that credit card completely, and then they lose a customer who has been generating interest income for years. The system is designed to keep you in a perpetual state of financial tightness. Now let's talk about the other invisible anchor around your neck: lifestyle inflation. You're 30 years old, you're making more money than you did at 25, maybe significantly more. You got a promotion, you changed jobs, you finally got that raise you've been asking for. So naturally, you increased your spending. Your rent went up because you moved to a nicer apartment. Your food budget increased because you stopped eating instant ramen 3 times a week. Your car got upgraded because your old one was falling apart. Your streaming subscriptions multiplied because everyone has Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and whatever new service just launched. This is the magic trap. Your income increases by 20%, so you increase your spending by 20%. You end up in exactly the same place financially as you were before the raise, but now you're psychologically committed to that higher standard of living. You can't go back to the cheaper apartment. You can't go back to ramen. And you certainly can't cancel the subscriptions. So when you try to save $20,000, there's nothing left to save because your lifestyle has perfectly calibrated itself to consume every dollar you make. The banks and credit card companies absolutely love this. In fact, they're counting on it. They study consumer behavior obsessively. They know exactly how much discretionary spending you can handle. They know how much you'll spend on convenience, on comfort, on little daily luxuries that add up to hundreds of dollars a month. And they've engineered the entire economy around making sure you spend it. Every marketing campaign is designed to make you feel like you deserve something. Every subscription service is designed to be just cheap enough that you don't notice when it renews. Every food delivery app is designed to be easier than cooking. Let's do the actual math on how subscription services are stealing your future. Think about all the subscriptions you have right now. Netflix is $15. Spotify is $12. A gym membership you don't use is $50. A meal plan service is $30. A streaming service for shows you forgot about is $10. A cloud storage upgrade is $3. A password manager is $3. A productivity app is $5. A dating app membership is $20. A meditation app is $15. I could keep going, but you get the idea. These are all small individual charges that feel insignificant. But add them up, that's probably close to $200 every single month. $200, that's $2,400 per year. Over 10 years, that's $24,000. You're literally handing away enough money to save your emergency fund just by paying for services you half use and half forgot you had. And the genius part is that each individual subscription is small enough that you don't notice it. If one subscription costs $200, you'd cancel it immediately. But 12 different subscriptions at $15 each, that's invisible. That's the slow drip that prevents you from saving $20,000. The banks know this. The credit card companies that issue your payment cards know this. They're not fighting subscription services. They're profiting from them. Every transaction generates a tiny fee that goes to the credit card processor and ultimately the bank. They're making money on the very system that's preventing you from saving. It's a beautiful machine if you're on the side of the banks. It's a nightmare if you're trying to save money. Now let's talk about something else that's specifically designed to target 30-year-olds, the student loan industry. You're 30. There's an excellent chance that you're still paying student loans from when you were 18 years old. The average person graduating from college today is carrying $130,000 in student loan debt. Even with income-based repayment plans, that's eating into your budget for a decade or more. The student loan industry is one of the most profitable industries in America, and it's literally built on the backs of young people trying to improve themselves. Here's what makes student loans particularly evil. They follow you. You can't declare bankruptcy to get rid of them. You can't just walk away. Your wages can be garnished. Your tax refunds can be seized. You're legally bound to the system for decades. And every month that you're paying student loans, that's a month you're not saving. The average student loan payment is somewhere between $200 and $500 monthly. That could be your emergency fund. That could be progress toward your $20,000. Instead, it goes to the federal government and private lenders who have no interest in you ever becoming financially independent. The government doesn't actually want to forgive student loans on any large scale because the student loan industry has become a revenue stream. Billions of dollars flow through this system every year. The government is one of the largest lenders, and paying off student loans would reduce that revenue. So the system is designed to be just barely manageable, but never truly solved. You can make your payments. You probably won't default. But you're also trapped in that payment indefinitely, unable to save aggressively for your future. Let's talk about something else that's specific to being 30 years old in 2026: healthcare costs. You're old enough that you might have a kid or two. You're old enough that your parents are starting to have health issues. You're old enough that you're not invincible anymore. Health insurance is expensive, really expensive. The average employer-sponsored health insurance premium is over $7,000 annually. But that's just the insurance. Then there's the deductible, the copays, the medications, the unexpected specialist visits that your insurance doesn't fully cover. One serious health issue and you're suddenly dealing with thousands of dollars in medical debt. I know someone who had an appendix removed a few years ago. The surgery took 45 minutes. The hospital bill was $40,000. Insurance covered most of it, but she still owed $3,000 out of pocket. $3,000, that's 15% of a $20,000 savings goal. Gone. In one afternoon, in an emergency that she had no control over and no way to prevent. This is the reality for 30-year-olds in America. Your health can bankrupt you in an instant, so you're less likely to save aggressively because you're constantly wondering if that savings is about to be needed for a medical emergency. The healthcare industry knows this. The insurance companies know this. They're betting on the fact that you'll never quite have enough safety net to truly protect yourself. They want you to carry enough health anxiety that you're perpetually worried, perpetually stressed, and perpetually unable to commit your money to long-term savings. Because if you saved $20,000 as an emergency fund specifically for health issues, you'd be one step closer to not needing their system. Now let's talk about inflation, the silent killer of savings. You're trying to save $20,000. That's a big number. It feels substantial, except every year, inflation erodes the value of that money. In 2026, we're experiencing inflation that's higher than it has been in decades. Your $20,000 in today's money might only buy what $18,000 could buy 2 years ago. You're running on a treadmill, saving money, but the ground is moving beneath you. The goalpost keeps moving further away. Here's where it gets really clever. The federal government is creating inflation on purpose through monetary policy. They're keeping interest rates low, they're printing money, they're stimulating the economy. These are all deliberate policy choices designed to keep the economy moving. But the side effect is that saving money becomes almost pointless from a real value perspective. If inflation is running 5% and savings accounts are paying 1%, you're losing 4% of your purchasing power every year just by being responsible and saving. It's mathematical punishment for prudence. The banks love this because inflation forces people to spend money now rather than save it. Why would you save if your money is losing value? Better to spend it on something tangible, something real, something that might appreciate. And what are the primary things people spend on? Real estate, stocks, consumption, all things that benefit the financial system. The banks profit when you're spending or investing, not when you're borrowing and saving cash. Inflation is a feature, not a bug. It's designed to keep money moving through the system, not sitting in savings accounts. Let's talk about something that specifically targets the psychology of 30-year-olds: comparison and social pressure. You're scrolling through social media and everyone you know seems to be getting ahead. Your friend is buying a house. Your colleague is talking about their investment portfolio. Your acquaintance is taking exotic vacations. And you're sitting there wondering why you're not making progress. Why isn't your money growing? Why can't you seem to get ahead? The answer isn't that you're failing, it's that you're comparing your behind-the-scenes financial reality to everyone else's highlight reel. What you don't see is that your friend who's buying a house got a family loan. Your colleague who's investing has a trust fund. Your acquaintance taking vacations is putting it all on credit cards. But social media doesn't show you that. It shows you the success, the wins, the visible markers of financial achievement, and it makes you feel like you're falling behind. So you start making emotional decisions instead of logical ones. You start trying to keep up. You increase your spending, trying to achieve the appearance of success. You make risky financial decisions, trying to catch up. The financial industry profits from this psychological warfare. Every advertisement is designed to make you feel inadequate. Every financial service is marketed as the tool you need to get ahead. Every investment product is sold with promises of wealth and freedom. They're selling you a dream and making money when you chase it. The ideal customer for a bank or financial institution is someone who feels behind, who's trying to catch up, who's willing to take risks they shouldn't take. That's not you trying to save $20,000 responsibly. That's you extending yourself financially, trying to keep up with an imaginary peer group. Now let's talk about the job market and income instability, something that makes saving $20,000 exponentially harder. You're 30. You might have changed jobs 4 or 5 times already. You might have been laid off. You might have taken a pay cut during a recession. You might be working a job that doesn't provide benefits. The job market for 30-year-olds is unstable in ways that previous generations never experienced. Your parents could work at one company for 30 years and retire with a pension. You're expected to jump between jobs every few years to increase your income. One day you're making $60,000. Next year you're making $55,000 because you had to take a new job. Job security is a luxury item. Because of this instability, you can't be as aggressive with saving. You need to keep more cash on hand just in case. You need to maintain a larger emergency fund because you never know when you might lose your income. So while you're supposed to be saving $20,000, you're also supposed to have 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund. That's potentially another $10,000 or more, depending on your living situation. The goalpost keeps moving. The target keeps getting further away. You're trying to hit multiple financial targets simultaneously, and the system is designed to make sure you hit none of them. Let's talk about rent, the number one expense preventing 30-year-olds from saving anything. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in a major American city is $1,600 monthly. That's $19,000 per year. 40% of your gross income if you're making $50,000 a year, which is around the median for 30-year-olds. Your landlord is profiting from your need for shelter. They're not building equity for you, they're building it for themselves. You're paying them money every month, and none of that money goes toward your future, it goes directly to them. Housing costs are the single biggest budget item for most 30-year-olds, and they're completely out of your control. You can't negotiate rent. You can't get a better deal by shopping around. Landlords have no incentive to compete on price because there's always someone else willing to pay it. So your largest expense is also your most inflexible expense. You have to pay it or you're homeless. And because you're paying so much for housing, there's almost nothing left to save. The real estate industry and landlords absolutely love this situation. They're profiting from your desperation for shelter. They know you have to pay, so they keep raising rents. They know you can't move frequently, so they neglect maintenance. They know you're trapped, so they have all the power in the negotiation. And while you're spending all your money on rent, you're not saving. You're not building a financial cushion. You're not able to walk away from a bad situation because you don't have the resources. You're trapped, and the system is working exactly as designed. Now let's talk about the subscription ecosystem more broadly, because it's not just entertainment subscriptions, it's a way of life. You need internet for work. That's $70 a month. You need a cell phone plan. That's $80 a month. You need insurance of multiple kinds. That's hundreds of dollars a month. You need food delivery services because cooking is hard. That's another few $100s monthly. You need a car or you need public transportation. That's $400 to $800 monthly. You need clothes, furniture, equipment. Every single aspect of life has been turned into a recurring subscription or expense that requires continuous payment. The average 30-year-old is paying somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 monthly in fixed and semi-fixed expenses before they even buy groceries or spend money on entertainment. If you're making $4,000 monthly take-home, which is realistic for many 30-year-olds, you're already at or beyond your income with essential expenses. There's literally nothing left to save. The system has been engineered to consume exactly as much money as you're making, maybe slightly more if you're using credit to bridge the gap. This is deliberate. Corporations and the financial system have invested billions in figuring out the exact amount you can spend. They've optimized every service, every subscription, every expense to take just enough, but not so much that you quit. It's psychological manipulation at scale. They know how much to charge Netflix so you don't cancel. They know how much to charge your gym so you feel guilty but keep paying. They know how much to raise rent so you're annoyed but don't move. And all of these tiny incremental costs add up to consuming every dollar you make, leaving nothing for savings. Let me give you some real numbers. Let's meet someone we'll call Mark. He's 30 years old, single, no kids, and he makes $75,000 a year. That should be enough to save $20,000. Let's see what actually happens. His gross income is $75,000, which sounds like a lot until the government shows up. After federal income tax, state tax, FICA, and his 401k contribution, he's taking home about $4,200 per month. That's his actual money to live on. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment in his city is $1,500. That's 36% of his take-home pay right there. Internet and phone is $100. His car payment is $300 because his old one broke down and he needed reliable transportation to get to work. Car insurance is $150. Gas is $150. That's $600 total on transportation before insurance and gas. He has health insurance through his employer, but the copays and out-of-pocket expenses average another $100 monthly. His subscriptions are somewhere around $150 when you add up Netflix, Spotify, the gym, meal planning, and various apps. He has student loans of $300 monthly from his college education. So far, we're at about $3,200. He has about $1,000 left for groceries, eating out, clothes, entertainment, and any kind of savings. Groceries for a month are probably $400 if he's careful. Eating out and coffee are another $200. Clothes, haircuts, and personal care items are another $100. Unexpected expenses that come up are another $100. Unexpected expenses that come up are another $100. That leaves him with $200 for savings, $200 monthly. At that rate, it would take him 100 months to save $20,000. That's over 8 years. 8 years of not having a single unexpected expense, not getting a flat tire, not needing new shoes, not having to replace anything that breaks, one unexpected car repair, and his whole plan falls apart. His car needs new brakes. That's $800. That's 4 months of savings gone. Or he puts it on a credit card and starts paying interest on it, which means his actual take-home pay effectively decreases. Now, he's not saving at all. He's just trying to keep up with the credit card payment he made out of desperation. This is the reality for millions of 30-year-olds in America. You're doing everything right, you're working a decent job, you're making above the median income, you're being responsible, and yet you still can't save $20,000 because the system is consuming every dollar you make. You're not failing. The system is designed to fail you. It's designed to keep you in perpetual financial tightness where you're always one emergency away from debt. Here's what the banks don't want you to understand. If you had $20,000 in savings, you would have options. You could negotiate better at work because you could afford to walk away if they didn't pay you what you're worth. You could change careers because you could survive without income for a few months. You could move to a better apartment because you could afford the moving costs. You could invest in yourself because you'd have the capital to do it. You could handle emergencies without going into debt. You could say no to things that don't serve you. An independent, financially secure 30-year-old is not a good customer for banks. Banks want to lend you money. They want you to carry credit card debt. They want you to have a mortgage. They want you to be dependent on their services. An independent person who has saved money, who has options, who doesn't need to borrow, is not profitable. So the system is designed to prevent you from ever getting to that point. It's designed to keep you dependent, desperate, and willing to pay whatever terms the banks offer. The government is complicit in this. Student loan programs that trap people in debt for decades, housing policies that keep prices inflated, monetary policy that creates inflation that erodes savings, tax policy that benefits the wealthy and penalizes the middle class. All of these are choices made by people who understand that keeping ordinary people broke and dependent makes them easier to control. You're not conspiracy-minded if you notice this. You're just paying attention. So what does this mean for you practically? If you're 30 and you're trying to save $20,000, you need to understand that you're playing a game that's rigged against you. It's not your fault that you're failing. The system is designed to prevent your success, but understanding that is the first step to actually fighting back against it. You need to become conscious of the invisible drains on your money. You need to cut the subscriptions you don't absolutely need. You need to reduce your housing costs, even if that means moving to a less desirable neighborhood or getting a roommate. You need to be ruthless about your discretionary spending because every dollar you waste is a dollar you're not saving. You need to increase your income if possible, not by getting a better job at the same company, but by adding income streams that are outside the traditional economy. You need to build a side business, do freelance work, sell something you make. You need to make money that doesn't require a W-2 from an employer because employer income is taxed at the highest rate. You need to understand that credit cards are a trap, not a tool. You need to avoid debt as much as possible because debt payments are another invisible drain on your money. You need to build your emergency fund before you try to save $20,000 for other goals, because emergency debt is how people derail their savings plans. You need to find community with other people who are trying to be financially responsible because comparison culture will destroy your resolve. Most importantly, you need to understand that saving $20,000 is not a personal finance problem. It's a systemic problem. The economy is designed to prevent you from accumulating wealth because wealth gives you power. A person with savings has options. A person with options demands better treatment. A person who demands better treatment is a problem for the system. So the system is designed to prevent you from ever having those savings in the first place. Understanding that allows you to stop blaming yourself and start directing your frustration toward the actual problem.